Well, the Pope's in D.C. during election season, so it certainly will be pretty hard to keep politics out of his historic visit, especially on Thursday morning. And that is when he speaks before Congress about some politically charged topics, among them climate change, income inequality, and possibly even immigration. Well, one Republican won't be there, Arizona Congressman Paul Gosar. He is boycotting the speech because he disagrees with the pontiff on climate change. Yeah, he's boycotting the Pope. All right, I want to introduce our panel to talk about the politics of this Pope's visit. Jeannie Zaino, the professor of political science at Iona College, as well as professor of campaign management at NYU. Gian-Carlo he's back. He's former aide to President George H.W. Bush. Tom Doherty, Republican strategist, partner at Mercury, and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. Guys, Jeannie, thank you all very much. I'll start with you first of all. It's funny, even among people. I mean, you're at a Catholic institution. You know, my kid's going through confirmation, right? So we get skin in the game, if you will, a little bit. The amount of people that aren't Catholic that are so focused on this, I think people will be surprised by not only the size of the crowds that he'll engender, but also the audiences. He seems to be pretty determined to not go through the motions. What he'll say, I think, on the floor of Congress, it'll certainly raise some eyebrows, I think. How do you think it's going to be received?
You know, I think he's going to say things that rankle both sides. I mean, this is a Pope who in 2013, he said a good Catholic meddles in politics, and he's done that since he assumed his position, and I think he's going to do that. You know, they have tried to make the case, the Vatican, that this is a pilgrimage, not a political or a state issue, and yet you see everybody in D.C. bracing themselves, as you mentioned, the representative who's going to boycott, for what he may and may not say. But I think you're going to hear things on both sides. Look, he's criticized the Obama administration for Syria. He has, you know, may say something about the issue of life, and that's something that's front and center in Congress right now with the Planned Parenthood defunding. He may say something about gay marriage, and he may also say things, as you mentioned, about climate change, about income inequality that the Democrats want to hear. So I think it's going to be, what did Cardinal Dolan say? He's an equal opportunity disruptor. And I think that's probably what we're going to hear when he's, of course, it's going to be in Spanish, so we'll hear the interpretation. But I think that's what we're going to hear.
How do you navigate it if you're a lawmaker? I don't think you pick a fight with the Pope. That congressman notwithstanding, when he's talking about income inequality, somebody else says it on the campaign trail, they're called a socialist. You don't say the same thing about the Pope here. Do both sides have to play this carefully?
No question. I mean, you know, when you're talking about politics, it's all about posture, it's all about context, and it's all about how you say things. You can respectfully disagree with the Pope. You can do so with a smile on your face. You can do so as a Catholic. You can say, my job is a legislator, and I take the following position, but the Holy Father is the Holy Father, and he deserves our respect. I mean, I think it's a needle to be thread, but it's one that can, you know, that many members of Congress will have to do. But I agree with Jeannie that there'll be enough for members of Congress to applaud and enough for them to, some of them to oppose as well.
Yeah, I don't know. You sit on your hands though when the Pope talks, right, Tom? I mean,
well, you certainly attend.
Yes.
I mean, you don't embarrass yourself and say that you're boycotting the Pope. I mean, that embarrasses you. It embarrasses your district. It embarrasses my party, quite frankly, that it's a Republican doing it. But I think that to the point that's already been made is that there's going to be enough throughout. You respectfully listen to him. He goes home, and we get on with politics as usual. That's what'll happen.
Well, speaking of politics as usual, obviously the window of time that we're in, Washington's always ripe for this, but you've got certainly a primary going on, particularly on the Republican side, where every day somebody's fighting to get a headline. Mm-hmm. You know somebody's going to say something after the Pope says it, then people are going to have to be taking positions as to how strong they want to go in being critical of the Pope. I can think of a certain New York commercial developer who's probably going to be saying something about this.
I don't know what the issue is going to be, though. I mean, I think that what is he going to say that's going to surprise us? I mean, I think we've sort of laid out where most people are on the issues. I mean, I think you'll find, like, you know, on the environmental stuff, a George Pataki will say he's absolutely right. There'll be issues, you know, on abortion where Ben Carson will say he's absolutely right, for instance. So I don't think we're going to find any. The question will be whether or not a Trump, and I don't think he's that stupid, where you go after the Pope. I mean, I think. Look, I
have less confidence than Tom.
Yeah, I know, because I think that we've seen in the past that the crazier the thing said, that his base of supporters love it. And so, but I still think that that's a dangerous road to go down.
there's a couple things. If he says something along the lines of, on Syria, what America's responsibility should or shouldn't be in taking in those people that are looking for a place to go, that's going to engender a response the next day, And I can also think if he starts saying about how income inequality and how the responsibility of the richest nation in the world to help out those less fortunate.
Well, a couple of things to keep in mind. The entire time he was in Cuba, he didn't say anything that was critical of the Cuban government. So there's an off chance that he doesn't say anything that's overwhelmingly critical of American policies. He just focuses on the issues themselves. To that end, I think the politicians are somewhat inoculated because they're already entrenched in their own positions. They can disagree with the Pope respectfully or agree with the Pope respectfully. Nobody's going to pick a fight with him, I don't think. But to me, I'm curious to see how he moves the needle with the general public. How many eyeballs are watching the Pope in front of Congress on Thursday, and whether that moves the debate among the American people in any one direction on any of these issues.
How many refugees are they taking at the Vatican? No, I mean, seriously. I mean, I think
there are somewhat space limits.
Yeah, I was about to say it's about as big as a
it seems
studio.
like they have a lot of space around the world. I mean, quite frankly, they own a lot of property, the Catholic Church. So, I mean, I think that the American people, one thing I don't think we like is I don't think we like others telling us what to do. And I know he's the Pope, and I respect the Pope. He's my Pope, but I don't want him telling me how we should be running our country.
This may be a line that we hear Friday or Saturday.
Yeah. Jim,
I may be
just
the
one
national
thing.
spokesman for our country.
This is his first time ever to the States. He's made it clear, both somewhat overtly and tacitly a little bit, that, that he doesn't like that the United States tends to think of ourselves as the center of the universe at times here. He's talked about that before. I think more than just people listening, and they will in big numbers, the optics. He's going to be going to a tent city full of homeless people. He's going to go to soup kitchen. He's going to go to a jail and talk to prisoners, et cetera. I think those optics are what people are going to be talking about because we've never seen that before. I mean, something as silly as him riding around in a Fiat today instead of a stretched, limo, whatever it was something, not the typical Pope mobile even. You know what I mean? I think that's going to be as much of a narrative as anything else.
And I have to say, this is a Pope who's really good at PR. I mean,
Yeah.
He has from the second he came in. He's coming up from Cuba, he landed from Cuba today. And the Vatican has been clear that was to show that he is taking the same path as the illegal immigrants to the U.S. through the South to make the case that we have to treat every human being with respect. So he is a Pope that, Andrew's right, we don't know if he'll overtly take on the administration or the U.S. government, but he's certainly going to make his point well known. And let's not forget that as you look at it politically, the Catholic vote has been up for grabs since 1972. Every presidential election, it's a swing vote. And if he is able to move that vote in one direction or another, and again, that's a big if, that could pay off in spades for one side or the other. So I think they're going to have to tread very carefully in terms of attaching themselves to things that the Pope says that they like and, respectfully distancing themselves from things that they don't like.
And that's a perfect segue to our question we're asking you
I
at
did
home
that for
tonight.
you,
I know you
Richard.
did. You give and you give. We want to get you involved in the conversation. Head over to Facebook and Twitter and answer our question. Do you think Pope Francis will impact the 2016 election one way or the other? All right, when we come back, we're going to be talking politics on the national front. This guy, Scott Walker, is the first #1 seed, if you will, to get knocked out of the GOP presidential primary tournament. So how can he, for that matter, any of these guys, fallen so far so fast? And what does it show us about the Republican field as currently constituted? Also, Donald Trump is having his first dip since he rocketed to the top. Has Donald reached a tipping point?